everyone. My name is Farida Lokhanwala. Like most women here, I wear multiple hats. I'm a mom, a pediatric occupational therapist, and an aspiring entrepreneur. I'm especially looking forward to this next panel discussion. It highlights the victories, experiences, and challenges of women entrepreneurs who are breaking barriers and shaping the future of business. I'd like to introduce our amazing moderator. It is my absolute pleasure to do this. Farida Baxamusa Zareen. Farida is the founder of Brings Joy Learning, a company offering supplemental learning curricula designed for parents to be actively involved in their child's education. With 14 years of experience as an educator, she has taught high schoolers at Waldorf High School in the Bay Area, as well as middle and elementary school students in San Diego and LA. She currently works as a professor at West Valley Mission College in Saratoga. Farida is also a geologist, professor, mother of 3 girls whom she home educates, and a popular social media influencer. An adventurer at heart, she loves the outdoors, especially camping and hiking. She has organized 4 global all-women conventions focused in women in business and empowerment. Farida's motto is to show up every day, even on tough days. Always seek the positive, avoid procrastination, and read plenty of books with your kids. Please join me in welcoming Farida Baxamusa Zaveri.
We're going to talk about personal motivations, inspiration, challenges, how do women in the business get VC funding, what are some advice that these amazing women would like to give us. And yes, I can't wait to start. So without further ado, I'll have Fatema introduce herself.
Hello everyone, my name is Fatema Nuruddin, and as far as I can remember, I always had a deep passion for arts, and my parents always encouraged me to pursue my passion. In 2002, believe it or not, I was watching Food Network and I came across a program. It was all about high-end wedding cakes, and that's when that moment was the one that I decided that one day I'm going to have my own shop. And fast forward 3 years, 2005, I opened Cake Delight in Livermore, California. Since then, we have done thousands of wedding cakes and custom cakes, and it's really amazing when a couple chooses us to be a part of their special occasions, especially like the bridal shower, the weddings, baby showers, and then doing their children's birthday cakes. It's pretty amazing. Next year marks our 20th anniversary for our shop, so that's amazing. Besides that, I've learned cooking from my mom, my khala, and my mother-in-law, and I always wanted to transfer those skills to my 2 daughters, and I thought what better way than to start my own cooking channel, and always wanted to do that, but never had the time, was really busy with my cake shop. But come pandemic, I was sitting at home for a month, and that's when I decided to start my own channel. I started on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, and after 4 years of real hard work, I now have over 700,000 followers.
I'd like to mention that Fatima here is extremely scared of water, but she overcame her fear by going 40 feet underwater at the Great Barrier Reef and did scuba diving. That's amazing. Neelam, tell us something about you.
So my name is Neelam Dabholkar, and I'm the founder of Any Health. This is a company that makes solutions for cognitive sustenance, and our primary customers would be people who are impacted either by dementia or traumatic brain injury. And I think I got the bug or entrepreneurial bug from my dad, because I've always seen him doing business. So he just retired a few years ago, but I think that's what I knew I had to do. I started my journey as a software engineer. I did a lot of development. I've been in program management roles, project management roles, and then I've done agile coaching. I train people, and then finally I started my own company. Last year, my company was, we participated in Stanford Lead Accelerator, and the idea won, and that's when we knew that, okay, this is something that we can pursue, and I started pursuing it, and here I am.
Neelam is a Ted Lasso fan and is extremely scared of snakes. She cannot see them on TV. That's me with spiders, I guess. Mona, tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. So my name is Mona Naggar, and I'm currently a venture capitalist. I invest in technology companies that are trying to solve for climate change. I started my career in investment banking at Morgan Stanley in M&A in New York, and then I was in Tokyo for a year, came out here to do my Stanford MBA, and then was based in London for 20 years. The first half at Morgan Stanley, where I was one of the people that co-founded Morgan Stanley's technology investment banking practice. And then the second half was at TIFF, where I ran non-US investing across all different asset classes. And then we moved here about 10 years ago, and I was on the investor-facing side and started hearing more and more about ESG and impact and SRI investing, and led the charge in trying to figure out how TIFF should be addressing that. And I felt like there weren't enough groups that were doing it what I thought was right, which is combining purpose and profit. And so I joined up with some old friends to start Vala Ventures, and that's what we're doing today.
Wow, and Mona is extremely good at kickboxing, and she's trained by a member from the English national team.
So watch out.
Watch out, she said. Okay, tell me out here, how many of you have eaten at Zareen's? Oh. Wow! Zareen, it's a pleasure to have you here sitting next to me.
Hi, my name is Zareen. You guys can hear me now? And I'm from Pakistan. I did my MBA from IB in Karachi. Got married, moved to Boston, went to Northeastern with another master's in economics. Then after that, normal life, we moved to Silicon Valley, started corporate world, continued for 10-15 years, in between had 3 kids, so it was on and off. And at some point I decided I want to be my own boss. So that's when the concept of Zareen's came in.
Wow, and Zareen, you grew up on this famous food street called Burns Road in Karachi. And as a small kid, Zareen loved biology and wanted to be a doctor, and she was not very much into cooking. It'd be interesting, I'd love to know more. Okay, let's begin with your personal journeys. What inspired you to start your own business or pursue your career path, and how did you overcome the initial challenges? Neelam.
So one of the reasons I always wanted to start something, and because I've always seen my dad, like I said, he was into business, and I knew this is what I wanted to do. Choosing the right thing was difficult, but then a few years back, my uncle was diagnosed with dementia, and I could see his immediate family struggling with a lot of things, simple things, and that's when I thought there is something that needs to be done for people who undergo like this massive bad thing that's happening. And that's when the wheel started turning. It took me some time to get into it, and I think the biggest hurdle is finding the right connections, and that's what I'm still doing it, and we are still in the process. But I think finding the right connections, finding the right people, doing a lot of consumer study. I think those are the few things that you need to overcome before you get anywhere.
Wonderful. And Fatema, you didn't go to culinary school. How did you overcome those challenges?
Right. So I think the idea that I wanted to have my cake shop was there first, even before I knew anything about it. I had no clue what I was doing. So I think at that point we were living in a very small town of Campbellsville, Kentucky, and literally the next biggest town was 45 minutes away from us. So that's when I went there with my husband with $300 in my pocket, and I said, I'm going to buy all the cake supplies that I can, and basically came back home, watched a lot of YouTube videos, believe it or not, and I literally taught myself how to bake cake and how to decorate, and that's when and the other main thing which really was a big thing for me was when I worked for a bakery in Los Angeles, Going there, working in a commercial kitchen really opened up my eyes. That's when I actually learned how a commercial kitchen was run. I was working there as a decorator, but my eyes were open from the very first day because I knew I was going to have my own shop, so I was trying to learn everything that I could, and that really helped.
That's a great vision. Wonderful. Mona, what about you?
I don't think I ever really set out to be an entrepreneur. My parents were academics. It wasn't sort of something that was, in my blood or an example that I necessarily had. But I just found that in every role that I was in, even within this large investment bank at Morgan Stanley, I found myself being somebody who enjoyed the blank slate and building things from scratch. And so even within kind of large organizations, I was being entrepreneurial. And so, as I mentioned, I think in my introduction, for me it was sort of like, well, no one's doing it right, and I think we can do it right. And it was more just kind of like, okay, there's a problem that I want to address, and so I'm going to go do it. As opposed to, gosh, I really want to be an entrepreneur.
Correct, yeah, and everyone has different goals, right? As entrepreneur, that's what we're talking about, climbing the corporate ladder too, which is so important for women and so many of you here. And Zareen, yes, what was your inspiration? Tell me something more.
So I didn't really think about starting a restaurant at all when I started doing cooking classes from home. The reason why I started cooking classes is I just did not feel fulfilled at corporate world, and I wanted to do something of my own, something more creative and challenging. So I decided, okay, what are the things that I can possibly do? With Umair being very busy traveling, I had very little options. The kids were younger. So I started doing cooking classes with the help of my kids. So we would have cooking classes in the house. The kids would help me, Umair would help write the menu. That's how it started. It really, I had no thought at that time that I would have 3 restaurants or 4 restaurants at all. Then once the cooking started doing well, I started doing kebabs. And with that, we started doing catering. And that's when I realized that, oh, okay, maybe I can also do a restaurant. And we started with the first restaurant, which was very small in Mountain View. And that quickly became too busy to handle. So then that's how it goes. Regarding challenges, the biggest challenge I had was that I didn't know the industry at all. So it took a lot of effort and regrets to an extent that, oh, why the hell did I get myself into this? But somehow it worked out. My biggest challenge was finding good employees. I didn't know where to look for cooks at all. And one thing that really helped me was I would always ask questions to other people in the same industry. So it's like, hey, how did you get started? Hey, what do you do? How do you find employees? How do you train them? And that kind of gives you ideas and help you overcome challenges.
Wonderful. And you mentioned you started small, right? With social media, there's like, everyone thinks, oh wow, this person's going great, but we never talk about, oh, they started small, you just make kebabs, and then you have like 3 or 4 restaurants in the Bay Area, which is commendable. We mentioned about family time. An important part, we as women, how do you balance that family time and your career, your business? It's tough initially, I know about it. How do you do it? How have you done it, Fatema?
I think it's important to have a good family support, for sure. And regardless, whether you're a man or a woman, I mean, when you're doing something, especially when you're starting a business, you need all the support that you can. I was very fortunate. My in-laws were with me. My husband is extremely supportive. He does everything that I do, in the kitchen when I'm in there. I mean, he's loading the dishwasher. Maybe it's not up to my level, but I mean, you know what? Things are getting done. It's getting done. Help in the household thing. It's a common thing that, if woman is even working, it's expected that woman is going to do the household chores, but that's not true. I mean, you need to have a cross support. Your children, your family members, everybody needs to help.
That's a great point. The art of letting go.
Yeah.
Okay. What about Mona here?
No, I couldn't agree more. I think one of the things that we as women have to let go of is this feeling like we need to be perfect at everything. And so one of the things that I always recommend to young women who ask me this is decide what things you're going to let go and what things are like mission critical. And so, I have a child with severe food allergies, so I am very on top of her medical things, deciding that's something I'm not going to let go. But I'm not going to be super mom. I'm not going to be the one who's always volunteering in the classroom. My husband, who is Pakistani, didn't ever learn to cook before. But now he has dishes that he makes. And it's great. And I'm thrilled because, as you say, if someone else is doing it, it's getting done.
Exactly.
Also, I would say I've empowered my children. Like, I think a lot of us feel this need to coddle our children. But, you know, from a young age, they got to make their own lunches and they got to help with dinner or whatever it is. And I think, you know, just taking the help, taking it, you know, it doesn't have to all be done the way you would want it. And letting go. That's probably the most important for me.
Wonderful. And Neelam, you founded your own company, and Zareen, your restaurant requires, it's demanding hours, like weekends. How did you all manage your family, your career, your passion at the same time?
So one, like I said, I'm not balanced at all. Anyone who knows me knows this. Neelam is not equal to balanced, but still, I mean, I have like a wonderful husband. So one, I chose my partner right. Yeah, that's the number one. And yeah, I mean, we are equal, right? So most of the times he's the one who supports me and I go to him for advice, like he comes to me for advice. And so it's a give and take. And he has, it's not just, even though there's my name, he has been always there thinking of ideas for the company, what we should do. So there are some parts of the company that I handle, some of them are handled by him. And so it's like a 50-50 thing everywhere. He helped me, I mean, when I was doing my MBA 2 years ago, he was there. I used to go away for like 2 weeks for my studies and I didn't have to think about anything. So that's like wonderful.
It's great. I feel we all hear that behind every man's success there's a woman, but I feel behind every woman's success is a wonderful partner. How do you manage those long hours, those weekends that are not with family? How do you do it?
So as we heard from everyone, we need to have a family support, which I did, and I'm very fortunate I did. First 5 years of the restaurant, I had no idea what I was even doing. All I did was the restaurant, so everything was not that important except, of course, our kids and family. I couldn't have done it without my family's support, so yes, that's very important. I remember when we were doing kebab deliveries to all over San Francisco, Berkeley, Omer would be my dedicated driver. And we did not care what anybody thought or what, you know, even people had told me, hey, why are you doing all this thing? Why are you leaving your job, you know? So yeah, balance, no balance the first few years.
Correct.
As in all startups.
Right.
This is what we're doing is a startup.
Yeah.
And it's hard to be balanced in the startup. You have to let go, of course.
Yes.
I'm not a superwoman, and nor do I want to be because that will stress the hell out of me.
Great. Yeah.
With the restaurants, now I'm trying to get some more balance by delegating, finding more management, reserving some time for me. But while the kids were growing up, I was not there for their meetings. I was not there for their games, not as much as I had wanted to. And I always felt guilty. I always thought, oh my God, my kids must hate me because, you know, I'm not there for them like other moms. But I was very surprised by this incident that happened when my daughter, who was a teenager at the time, we were having lunch together. She works at the restaurant too, and she was a cashier. So after her shift finished, we were having lunch, and she asked me, hey, Mama, do you know who I look up to most? And I'm like, yeah, your dad, your aunt, your this and that. And she's like, no, it's you. Oh. You know, it's you that I look up to because I've seen how hard you worked to be where you are, and I'm so proud of you. So I never thought I'll ever hear that from her, so it was a very emotional moment. But to all the women who feel guilty, you know, at some point your kids will come and tell you how proud they are.
Oh, yeah. I've seen your son at Palo Alto, and he's always taking feedback, and that's amazing how your children see it, right? Even like being a homeschooling mom, I feel, oh my God, there's something that I've not finished something. But they see me do my work, they see, and they look up to it. Whenever I came for this conference, and they were like so proud of me, and they were cheering for me, so they see all of that. Really,
I would like to add something to
yes.
what Zareen just said, that you know, it's also important to satisfy your own need, what you want in life, you know, because when you are achieving the goals that you have set for yourself, that's when it makes you a happy person, and that's when you become a better mom, a better wife, a better person in general, because if you're not happy, you're not going to, you know, be happy with anyone.
Exactly. So what, you know, for my audience who's taking notes, that as a woman, we always think about, we have to go do these camps, we have to do this. it's what makes you happy, right? And if you're happy, you're a happy mom or a dad, your children see it and they get inspired and learn from you. My next question is for the corporate ladies, Neelam, Mona. You all have climbed the corporate ladder beautifully. Mona, you've gone from executive director, CEO, advisor to CEO, CFO, director, board member, and now partner. And Neelam, you've gone from manager, director, founder of Product Academia, and now founder of Any Health. Tell me something, tell my friends here who want to climb the corporate ladder, who are managers, want to be directors, or want to be managers. What are things you did, and what are things you do not recommend doing to climb that ladder? Mona.
Sure. Well, one of the first pieces of advice I was given, which I think is really helpful, because I'm somebody, I have a sense of humor, I like to laugh, and somebody said to me, show them you're smart first, and you can show them you're funny later. And sort of like, once they know you're smart, you can always convince them you're funny later. But if they think of you as funny, like it's hard to convince them that you're also smart. So I would advise that to young people, and we've all seen on the campaign trail people making fun of Kamala Harris because she laughs too much. I mean, it's kind of crazy stuff, but like it's kind of showing the earnestness first, I think is good. The second thing I always tell people is to cultivate mentors, to seek those people out, and they don't necessarily have to be like you or look like you. These are just people that you think you can learn from, who can give you good advice in your career. And those could be within the organization that you're in, or they could be outside. Some of my best mentors were some of my parents' friends. As I mentioned, my parents were academics. They knew nothing about the corporate world, but they had friends who were senior executives and took me under their wing and gave me really good advice when I needed it. And then the third thing maybe I would say is find people that you want to work for and try to attach yourself to them and follow them. Because in many ways, the person you work for, being someone you can learn from, someone who treats you well, someone who has your back, who promotes you, is far more important than even the content of the job that you do. And so, really focusing on who you work for early in your career is super, super important.
Wonderful advice there. Neelam, what would you like to say?
So, apart from everything, I mean, she has summed it up absolutely well. A few things is like, try not to have lunch alone. Always find somebody within a company to go, to find, to talk, because the more people you talk within the company, that's how you're growing your network. So try never to eat alone. Use those coffee breaks for getting to know people. I mean, that's like a wonderful thing. Like, I've always had some very good friends that I made just because we went for coffee every day and laughed and, created great relationships. The other thing is, don't show everything that you feel right on your face. Sometimes, I mean, not sometimes, even now, people can see what I'm feeling even without me talking. And I have to change that. Learn from all your bad bosses, right? I have had plenty. One of the reasons why I wanted to be an entrepreneur is because I felt they were not up to the mark. So, but again, not show it on my face. Learn from their mistakes and never to do the things that they do. So these are all the things that that can help you climb up the corporate ladder and be sincere in your work. I mean, at any point, maintain your integrity and be sincere. Be an upstander. If you see something bad happening, always speak out. I mean, don't just sit silent.
Wonderful. Neelam, Fatema, you are this multi-passionate woman, lots of energy. What inspired you to continue to innovate on your cake business, your YouTube channel? You have millions of views on the chicken dancing, and I've seen all your videos, I love it. What inspires you? And being a social media influencer, a tiny bit myself, it's tough. And what do you do on the tough days? What inspired you? What advice would you like to give them?
Right. So I think it's important to know your customer base. I mean, be it cake or restaurant or even doing social media, you need to really understand what your viewers and what your customers really want, because that's the main key. It's if you have a hobby, you can do whatever you want. I mean, you're really not teasing anyone but yourself. But if it's if you're doing it as business, you have to really understand that point of view, and then you have to really understand, like, the kind of cakes we used to do 20 years ago are very different from what we do now. So you have to keep changing, keep growing in your field, understand what the trending thing is. Like you just mentioned that one of the video which has more than 100 million views, it's not even a cooking video, it's a dancing chicken video. It's just because it is something new, something different, you know, and that's what you need to do.
That's great. So, what advice would you have for aspiring entrepreneurs who want to turn this passion, they've not studied it, but want to turn passion into a business?
So it's a great start when you want to turn your passion into a business, but I don't think that's enough. And I wish somebody had told me this when I started 20 years ago. So if I could go back in time, these are the questions I would ask myself. First of all, is your passion or your hobby something that you can turn into a profitable business? And can you make it scalable or not? That's important. Another thing for me which was important was when I was starting off, it was just a hobby for me. I wanted to do everything myself. I did not want to hire anyone. Thanks to my husband for changing that perspective for me. So you need to understand that can you hire someone, teach them what you know, and actually have someone who knows more than you do so you can grow your business. And then the last thing would be, can you actually automate your business so that it can run on its own?
That's a great point. Zareen, we all want to know here, what is Zareen's favorite restaurant other than Zareen?
So, you know, I don't eat out as much because if you have a restaurant, you are eating out all the time anyways. So, but once a month, I do need my In-N-Out fix.
Oh. What was that like hearing I was telling you my second
Other than In-N-Out, I do like Afghani food as well. So, Kabul, Diapana, they're all good choices. And if I'm in Palo Alto and I want to splurge a little bit, Avia is my good choice.
Great, and I read that KQED called you the midnight gem of Palo Alto. Your favorites amongst techies, women, children, kids. I personally love the book setup. How did you come up with this wonderful menu? You mentioned that Umair helped you with that. How did you make Zareen so unique as compared to other Pakistani restaurants in the Bay Area?
So, the books, to answer your books question, is we'll go out on the weekends a lot with the kids and read books to them in Barnes & Noble, and then Amazon took over and all the Barnes & Noble closed. So at that time, Umair and I, we always dreamt of having a cafe with books in it. So we said, oh, we have to make that a reality. So when I first got my Mountain View location, that's when I thought that, oh, we always wanted to have books. But the place was so small, we could not have a library. So then we decided, okay, let's put it on the walls. So that's how the books will. And this way we can highlight local South Asian writers as well and some of our favorite books. Other than that, you asked me for the menu, yeah?
So you did kind of answer that about Umair, so can you tell us more about that?
About the menu. So when I started restaurant, so first I was doing cooking classes, then we upgraded it to kebab delivery, then that went to catering. So everything grew slowly, so it was much more manageable for me than to jump from nothing to 4 restaurants, you know. The menu was thought out in such a way because we wanted to represent brand Pakistan and by extension brand Muslim to not just Pakistanis and Muslims but people who are non-Desis. So I wanted to give something that would appeal to the second generation of immigrants as well as non-Desis. So it is authentic, yet we have twists like we have burritos and we have chicken tikka masala and all that. So that way we can get a good healthy mix of people, you know.
We are almost on time. So Neelam, my question is, how do you integrate as a CEO of a health company? Give us some key insights on maintaining personal health and wellness in managing a business.
So, right from the beginning, I have been in sports. So, health, fitness has been like always a part of what I do. So, I somehow find time to go for a run or a walk or even do some weights. And with respect to I try to do the same with my kids. So, my older one was in competitive gymnastics, and I believe that when you do sports, it somehow does something to your brain which makes you really strong mentally, and you know, it creates the sportsman spirit. It makes you go for things that you normally wouldn't. So once, like my older one, she was competing in a tournament. She was on the beam, she fell down twice. She got up, she completed her routine. I didn't see her crying 1 minute, and then she was on to her next. So that took a lot of strength, and I think sports gives it to you. I would, like, even my younger one, she just competed in Junior Olympics in race walk, and everyone was making fun of her, like, a grandma walk. I mean, what are you doing? Nobody even knew what race walk was, and she came in 6th in the country. So it took a lot of strength to,
Can you give us some advice on VC funding here? Research says that women aren't equally VC funded as much as men. What do you have to say here?
It's true, and there are various organizations trying to improve that. There's organizations like All Raise that are out there trying to help women get more VC funding. So I think if there's a woman out there who has a great idea, there's a lot of VCs that at least are saying they would like to back female entrepreneurs. But I'd say I have the same advice for entrepreneurs pitching to VCs, whether they're men or women. And that is really to be prepared for all of the typical questions that you're going to get. So get advice, get help with your deck, practice. Know why you? Like, what is it about you? What is it about this product? What is the problem you're solving? Why are customers engaging, or why will they engage if you don't have customers yet? Why is this a hard problem to solve, and how did you solve it? How big is this market? Because it has to be something that is not just sort of like a lifestyle business. For a venture capitalist to back it, they want to know that this could grow into like $1 billion company. And so it can't be something that you're just doing from your kitchen and they're never going to be able to. So it has to be, how is it scalable, etc.
Did you face any challenge being a woman in this business?
I have always been in industries that are predominantly men. And so it's something that I've just kind of gotten used to. But if we have time, I see the 0 up there. And I could tell a sort of a funny story. I've been perpetually underestimated, I would say. But there was a funny story when I was based in London. I was staffed on the defense of a hostile takeover in Switzerland. American company was trying to buy the Swiss company. And so all of the members of the board were kind of 75-plus-year-old Swiss men. And remember, they only gave women the vote in like the 70s. So this is Western Europe, but Switzerland. And I was the most senior person in the room. I was only a senior associate, but I was the most senior person in the room at the time. And there was a junior analyst with me who happened to be a male German. And they kept asking questions and directing them at the young man. And he, of course, would look at me as the senior person and I would answer. So they got frustrated with that, and then they started asking questions in German, but I happen to speak German, so I would answer the question right away. But in the end, pardon? No, thank you. Dankeschön. But in the end, it also sometimes was helpful. I actually had somebody once say to me, well, I assume if you're a woman and you're senior in this industry, you must be 10 times better than the men.
Fatema, you mentioned about women of color. Anything about that you faced, and how did you overcome it?
I think when I first started, this was 20 plus years ago, and in our wedding industry at that point, there were very few colored, let alone Pakistani women in that field. So I would see immediately when the customers would walk in, I would do like consulting for an hour for wedding cake and whatnot, and they would walk in and they would start judging me immediately. And it's only when I started talking about my product and I would show them what I know and they would see the confidence in me is when I would see them.
So knowing your product and
know your product,
absolutely.
And show it with confidence,
Wonderful.
If you know it, just show it.
I see the zeros several times. Last one, I promise. What advice do you have for someone who's recently started their business? And Zareen, you can go.
So when I started, I was doing cooking classes, which made very little sense monetarily. But when you start something, you look for opportunity and say, oh, this is not working. How do I take it to the next level? So I see a lot of people start with good ideas, but they are not willing to give up their lifestyle or pursue it. So it's very, very important to continue what you're doing and not give up. And if things are not working, it's important to realize what else can I do. Like I started doing cooking classes that led to, then started kebabs, which led to caterings. And then with catering, I'm like, oh, I can do catering as well as try a restaurant. So one door opens, one door closes, another door opens. So don't give up, keep trying, and if things are not working out, look for other opportunities where you can go in.
I think that's so true. I would say stay true to your purpose and your values, but be prepared to pivot and change everything else.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the most important thing is an idea may be, perfect for you, but before you launch, you have to find out via multiple customer meets or whatever to know if this is what people are really looking for, because you may have a solution that nobody wants, and this is something that happens in tech companies, especially if you're building a tech product. Nobody wants that solution and you're just spending time and effort building something nobody wants. Also, you have to start preparing much in advance. Like in my case, I volunteered with Alzheimer's Association much before, because I knew these are the people who would help me launch a product. I had no product at that point, but I still volunteered. So think way ahead and then launch.
Great. We can take some wisdom later from Fatema, but we're ready for Q&A now.
So you mentioned like you have, first when you started it was more of a passion. So as you went along in your business, how did you keep your creative streak and didn't like succumb to just like standard client specifications? How did you balance both?
So I mean, everything that I've done is out of passion, which is a great start. But I mean, you have to understand again the customer point of view as well. I mean, and also you need to understand, if it's just a hobby, you can do whatever you want, you can leave whenever you want, but if you're turning it into a business, the passion will only last so long. That's why it's important to understand that if you're turning it into a business, you have to have the right people in place so that they can help you grow as well. And once you want to step back and once you're done with it, the business can still run on its own. So that's an important thing, because your passion is not going to last forever. You will keep changing. I aspire to do everything different every year, and my husband has to ask me these questions like, do you have the time for it? Do you really want to do it? So you have to keep like adapting to new changes.
I think a question for Farida then. So I know you wrote and published a few books yourself. So I'm just wondering, what's the thought process behind that for like aspiring writers or anyone like that? And what are some of the challenges you faced regarding like
That's a great question. I self-published. I didn't want a publisher to take charge of what goes in my book. I also wanted more profits. I wanted to keep that. So answering your publishing question, what inspired me I knew there was a problem, and just to make a difference and to make, I believe the parents need to know their child the best, and they need to play a role in their education, no matter which best private school or public school you send them to. So you have complete faith. Of course, I've been a teacher for the past 15 years, so it's backed up with a lot of research. So just believe in yourself, and then that's why I took the self-publishing route. Does that answer your question? Kind of. Okay. Talk more later.
Can you touch on public speaking part of your persona to advance to go into business?
The question is what?
Anybody who wants to. You have to do public speaking, which you are not prepared for when you start.
Right, that's correct.
Yeah, I would just, on that note, I would say English is not my first language, So that was also a big thing for me when I came to this country. I mean, I studied from an English medium school, but that was not my first language. That was my biggest fear, actually, talking to my clients in English. But you know what? The industry teaches you. The more you do it, the better you get at it. So you just have to put your fear aside and just jump into it and just keep practicing it.
And to answer your question, I practice personally. I'm very confident, but I practice a lot. So for me, practicing works a lot, doing some walks, and then talking to.
No, you're great, yeah.
For me, I think I sing, so I had that confidence of going in front of people and singing, but I was terrified of talking. But I didn't know, somehow when I started just doing a job, it just happened because you have to give a lot of presentations and And then I realized that I love to talk. It's easy if you love to talk.
So can you explain a little more? So we're in the valley, and everybody wants to have the next VC-funded business. So what are the businesses that really could be VC-funded or not? Because everyone wants to start a business and go to a VC and pitch to them. So is every business a VC-funded? What is not? I mean, it's very hard for people to understand that.
Sure. Well, I think I touched on it a little bit earlier, but most VCs want to invest in something that they think could be like $1 billion outcome for them, right? So especially when they're taking early risk with you, they have to believe that it's a really large market that you're serving. So that's one really important piece. The other important piece is they need to believe that you are the right sort of person to solve this problem. And so, if you don't have the background in this, you have to assemble a team that sort of fills some of your holes. The other part of it is it has to be a business that's scalable. I think you touched on this a little bit. Like, it can't be something that only scales by hiring more and more people to do something that's either quite manual or like a consulting or whatever sort of business. A people-intensive business isn't usually scalable. It tends to be things where you invest in the software development, and then it's very easy to sort of roll that out. Or it is maybe it's manufacturing. You invest in a factory, and then it's there's a real scale. You've done $5 million of capex, and you can get $50 million of product from it. So they have to believe that it's scalable in order for this to really be something that's and fast growth. So you have to be willing to have a business that's doubling, tripling every year. And so if it's more of a lifestyle business, that's not really something that's venture capital backable. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
My name is Murtaza Partapurwala. The question is for Ms. Zareen Khan. We cater to about 80 families each day. And so 80, speaking for about 80 in Fremont too, so about 160 to 170 food every day goes out to families. And so shout out to the cooks or the chefs who do this. Is there a way for the ladies who cook to maybe interact with you and maybe learn from you?
Oh yes, I would love to. Let's connect offline and then we can see how we can make that happen.
Okay, my husband raised his hand, so I have to.
Some special preference. So my question is for Neelam. At what point when you're trying to solve a problem would you rely on yourself or understanding it or finding a partner or a founder to basically like get a skill in your to fill that gap? And if you're doing that, what are the traits you look for in a founder, like around co-founders?
So in my case, I definitely needed somebody with expertise. So I have my cousin who's like the dementia expert. So when I started, she and I worked together to come up with the entire idea, what is needed, what is not. Then along with my volunteering experience, and then I also volunteer in some of these memory care centers to actually see how the patients behave. So that's one added thing. And then when you look for a founder, you have to, one, you have to have the same wavelength. Like, you need to know a person. That person has to be completely trustworthy. So right now, I am in, trying to talk to a founder right here. I mean, so once he has time, maybe he'll come. I'm talking about Tahir. So he's the one who got me here. So yeah, once he's settled, I think, that's who I'm trying to rope in because I trust him. And I think that's one of the most, you need to know them, you need to trust, you need to identify, like in my case, the new technical aspects of what goes into building the digital solution, that's not something that I'm very good at. So that's where he would come in. Plus my husband, he is technical, so that comes to be, and when the time comes, he can also jump in as the co-founder.
So my panelists have been kind enough to hang around for a little bit, and you can answer. They can answer your questions. Thank you so much.